We have here a juxtaposition between duty and charity, or duty and sort of a willful love. Jesus says, if you've just done what you're commanded to do, there's no merit in that, right? You don't thank a slave for doing what you've commanded them to do, because that's what they do. There's a time and a place for a servant to eat, and it's not with the master. And just because they're tired, Jesus is saying, it doesn't mean that they, take a break and then you just do their job for them. What he's saying here is that when the servant has done everything that the master's commanded, that just means everything's square, right? But as Christians, we have this huge sense of entitlement, that we're owed a bunch of stuff because we're Christians. We're owed a good and pleasant life. We're owed comfort. We're owed a stability in our day and in our world. This is the way sort of modern American Christians have kind of come to look at things. None of this is, of course, promised. And then when bad things happen, we say, Lord, didn't I do the things you asked me to do? Why is this bad stuff happening? Right? But the Lord says, when you've done everything that the master has commanded, then say we're unprofitable servants. Why? Because we've only done what is required. We've only done what duty, what justice demands. Christ elevates us from the law for freedom's sake so that we can go beyond what duty demands, what ordered, right, square justice demands, and go into the realm of charity, where we go above and beyond, where we work late into the night to do something that someone needs, or we get up early in the morning to ensure that we get a jump on the day so that we can, earlier than we have to, so that we can be where we need to be earlier, so that we can make better preparations. Like going above and beyond in everything that we do, not because we're commanded to do, but because we love the one for whom we're doing it, namely God, and we love the subordinate group of people for whom we're doing it, namely our neighbor. Right? And only when we say, man, I didn't need to give that person, I didn't need to put that person up in a hotel for a month. I didn't need to do that. That was not a matter of justice for me, but I did it anyways. Or maybe it was a matter of justice that I found some accommodation for them because I had some natural obligation to them, but I gave them better accommodations, or I gave them longer accommodations than was just. Just by way of an example. We can do this in our family too, persevering longer in disagreements or in uncomfortable situations just because we love the person and we're like, okay, we might not agree on that, but I love them, and so I'm not going to let this or that issue interfere with that. Or it's loving the person well, and loving the person enough not to have a false relationship with them on false premises, ignoring injustice, but suffering the absence of that relationship for the sake of justice that nobody would accuse you of not fulfilling if you didn't do it, but you would know, right? This is where we look at Paul, right? Jesus is kind of setting up, okay, well, by what do we judge our effectiveness in our life as Christians? We don't judge it by duty. We don't judge it by checking boxes. That's not the way we do that. I went to Mass. I prayed my rosary. I did the things. Check, 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 check. That's not how we live our lives as Christians. We live our lives as Christians moment to moment to say, how can I pour more charity into this moment, right? Easier said than done, of course, but that's the reality. And Paul kind of gives an explanation of, okay, as a Christian man, as a Christian woman, as a Christian youth, what does life look like? And if you were listening, you would see that it is incredibly opposite to what popular society, popular culture is telling us to do. Popular culture, the whole opposition platform of goodness and decency, ran on the ability for women to kill their children, the ability for boys and girls to be mutilated, to change their gender, the ability, the freedom of homosexual, or the normalization of homosexual relationships, the promiscuity of men and women, the destruction of natural family. Like, that's what was popular. The worst, most base dispositions of the human heart and the human soul is what was on offer. And thanks be to God for many reasons, but regardless of the reason that it wasn't chosen, thanks be to God that wasn't chosen as what we want for our nation, for those to be our token values, right? I'm not praising or exalting the other side here. I'm simply saying thanks be to God that that's not being advanced anymore. That's no longer the value that we hold. Like, we're making a statement. That's no longer the value that we hold. This raging, unhinged, deranged, delusional, furious press towards unnatural insanity, and then calling that freedom and justice and rights. Because that's not what this says. If that's what you want, fine, but leave, go away. Because Paul was very clear. What Paul just described is absolutely opposite of what we have been what we've been fed as the best thing in life. Chastity, he says. Subordination, he says. Sobriety, he says. Self-control. Love, endurance. My gosh, have you seen the lack of resilience in people today? When things get a little hard, they just scream into their TikTok or into their phone and then post it for sympathy from people they don't even know. When we read readings like this, when we go back and we say, man, this is the origin, this was the jumping off spot, this is where Jesus and his apostles set up the ideal of what we are to be in this world so that we can execute God's plan in our lives and for the good of others, we have gone so far astray. But it really kind of makes it easy, though, in a sense, because the choice is clear. It's not like there's too much confusion, right? We need to look at this. Look, if you're a man, go back through and read this. Go back through and look at what Paul says you need to, the virtues that you need to be attributing or aspiring to as a man, and see how you're doing. Or see if you've just swallowed the popular pill. If you're a woman, go back through and see what Paul says is the ideal virtues of a woman, and see if you're living up to that, or see if you're rather buying what the world's selling, and replacing worldly virtues, which are no virtues at all, for true Christian virtues, which establish order and justice in the world. And then, not many of you here are responsible for raising children anymore. But we look at what we hope for our children, to see, man, it would be great if our young men and women would conduct themselves in these ways. We need to look at that. You could just go back and read this as sort of like a detox from everything that the world's been telling you, a detox from what social media is constantly putting forward as the thing to hope for, the goal to achieve, the virtues to aspire to, and say, you know what? The good things in the world are much simpler than what they're screaming. Good things in the world are ordered. They fit. They feel right when they're locked in, right? And I've been wasting time. I've been wasting energy. I've been frantic. I've been upset. I've been scared. I've been lost, trying to pursue the elusive good that the world says is there, when the good has been in me the whole time. because God made me natural. He made me right. He made me ordered. Sin has disordered me. I need to look for where Christ has offered to reorder that disorder and let him do it so that I can become the man or the woman that Christ wants me to be. Not a servant, not a slave, but being so well ordered that he can call us his friends.